Indigenous peoples have lived on their territories since time immemorial. Yet today, indigenous peoples' lands and resources are increasingly targeted by governments and companies, rationed to supply minerals, fuel, and agricultural products to the global market. Land use is often decided in regional and national spatial plans before communities know about it. Companies, politicians, local officials, and security forces often work together to decide what they think is best in the name of national development. Time and time again, they decide together in the name of their own financial interests. This collusion between states and companies helps create the conditions for the takeover of community lands. Whether a company or government plans logging, mining, plantations, conservation, or other land use changes, they often use an array of tactics to convince community members to accept and support their projects.
So they have got a lot of tactics which are well grafted by specialists in the companies.
The people in this video are all from local communities whose lands have been targeted for large-scale development. By learning from their experiences, you can be more informed and better prepared to identify and deal with company tactics in your own territories.
Communities have the right to accept or reject a program or project. To reject if they see it will harm them, but they may also accept if they see it will work and will bring prosperity to the community.
In most countries, communities have the right to be consulted over a proposed development that will affect them. Under international law, communities have the right to give or refuse consent. This is known as free, prior, and informed consent. In reality, many communities are let down by socialization and consultation processes. One example of bad practice is to bypass all forms of consultation.
When the state came here, they didn't speak with us or seek our permission. They just took the land. It turns out we had already lost our rights to the land, to the water, to our livelihoods.
Often, the first a community hears about a development plan on their territory is when a company liaison officer comes to visit them.
They brought sociologists and other professionals in the field of tricking people. They look for the ways to gain our support, how to convince us by any means.
Too often, consultation meetings are not open to everybody in the community.
The company started marketing the project to the communities, but not with everyone. They say that in this way, they had consulted us, but they never held a large public meeting for the whole community to learn about the project.
Another method is to have meetings, unannounced meetings take place in communities when many people are either not in the village or in their farm or coming back from the farm.
Unfortunately, we've seen quite a few cases where companies have later claimed, well, we had permission to do this. And yet, if you talk to community members, they'll say, well, the person who gave you permission doesn't speak for us and never had the authority to speak for us.
Often, companies are not transparent in their dealings with the community. A trick companies are known to use is the false use of signatures to claim support for their projects.
Whatever consent they gave, because they know that they have been tricked. They had a list of attendants. People wrote their names and signed. Then what they did was attach the list to a map. They said it had been signed by the villagers.
There are investors who are not transparent and on purpose trick indigenous people.
masyarakat adat.
Kita tidak tahu bahwa di samping itu.
We didn't know that hidden under the papers was a document from the company about the price they will pay us, and another document about land rights.
Terus terselip juga mengenai hak tanah ini.
At the time of signing, we weren't allowed to see this letter.
Another trick that is used is for the company to make an oral agreement with the community, but then change the terms in the written contract.
Ini dokumen perjanjian antara masyarakat.
This is the document the company made about the agreement between the community and the company. But the agreement was only spoken, and we didn't give up the land. We agreed to lend the land to the company, but that it would be returned to the community. We are confused. In this written document, it now says that we have given the land away. We feel tricked and wonder where we will go.
Sampai saat ini juga masyarakat sekarang lagi bingung kami akan kemana ini.
Often, a company will arrive in a community with many promises of development.
They promise you school, they promise you water, they promise you community hall, they promise you everything for do.
Nothing is coming out. This is the borehole pipe they gave us. They say they have given us potable water, but there is no water coming out from here. You yourself, you have seen it.
Dulu dia bilang di sini.
They used to say that if the company comes, they will provide new houses, a good road, good water for the lives of the people. But these promises are empty and nothing has changed.
Sampai saat ini kami masih hidup begitu saja.
Companies often promise community members that they will be given good jobs.
So many companies come to our village promising work. There are so many people here, but at most 10 to 15 have jobs with the companies. All the others are unemployed.
Ketika dalam solisasinya mereka akan mengerangkul semua anak-anak dan mana.
When the company came here to market their project, they say they would involve all the unskilled youth and employ them as laborers. But now, only 2 people have jobs.
Dari berapa orang, 5 orang itu dipecat semua.
Often, influential members in the community, such as the village head, the traditional leader, or heads of families, are given special attention by the company.
They came and started to give the village council money, but through the district council. It was $1,400 per village. But the money only reached the village political leaders, who started saying the company investment was not a problem.
Normally, the company tactic is to invite the leaders to eat, offer them work, money, promise they will build them a house. I have experienced this too. In some areas, they have been able to divide and rule.
Other chiefs have accepted and say, let me die poor. I'm not interested to give out my land to people who have come first with promises. We'll make road, we'll do community and all this thing, without having a dialogue with me and my people.
Offering money, gifts or jobs to some members of the community but not others is a tactic to create divisions within the community. A united community is often the biggest obstacle to large-scale developments, so dividing the community is one of the most effective tactics the companies use to obtain land.
Divide and rule is a standard procedure since colonial. And this is still happening even now, better than any other time.
Be careful with the way the company gains power. They will make us dependent. They will make us fight amongst ourselves. And then they come in.
We haven't demonstrated because we are divided. There are youths now working for the mine, so their families don't go to protest against mining.
We have been cheated. The whole village was cheated. Now we are accusing one another on who is responsible. You signed in secret. But this is the company's game.
Companies often tell communities that they will remain poor unless they hand over their lands.
They will tell you, you are in last place in terms of economy, education. You have to do something. This is when they tell you, we can help, but you have to give us something in return.
They will never say, we will destroy your lives, we will destroy your communities. They say, we'll bring progress, we'll have hospitals, schools. But in reality, they're not here to give charity. These promises are a trick, a way of entering. Once they've arrived, they don't care about people's lives. All they care about is getting more and more wealth.
Members of the community who don't agree with a company's plans are often targeted in an attempt to discredit any opposition to the project.
They only went and were talking that I hate development. I don't want development for my people.
The company accused me of terrorism, of drug dealing, of land speculation, of timber trafficking, of being involved in the gold trade. It was all lies, and I denounced them. Then the persecution was even worse.
Companies sometimes also use the courts to prosecute people who oppose their projects, such as these community members in Indonesia.
When local community members take any step to question or oppose one of these projects, they may find themselves on the receiving end of criminal charges. This has been, unfortunately, a very effective tool by companies to try to stop opposition to their project, and even more than that, to stop any debate.
We have seen that some companies use bribery, coercion, and lawsuits to ensure their projects go ahead. Others, however, use more violent tactics.
The government forestry department with gangsters frighten the community with weapons and with police.
The people who were trying to take over our land threw us out. It was horrible. They evicted us, they threw us out, chased us, treated us badly. They came for our elders with machine guns. That was how the eviction and persecution happened.
Companies invest huge sums of money to plan, finance, and develop their projects. They want indigenous lands, and they use many tactics to make sure their projects go ahead. As a community, you have the right to decide how your land is used. You also need to prepare yourself for the tactics many companies use.
Masyarakat harus kritis melihat kehadiran berbagai pembangunan.
Community need to be critical when they see these developments, this investment coming to their area. They should demand explanation from outsiders. Will the program that is coming to the village bring benefit? Will it have impacts on the environment or on the local economy?
Lingkungan atau perekonomian masyarakat desa.
Before moving on to another video, take some time to consider some questions. What kinds of tactics do companies use? Do you have any direct experience of these tactics? And how can you counter these tactics? any of the other videos in this toolkit, look at ways in which communities are resisting the takeover of their lands. Take a look to see which videos you might want to watch, but initial suggestions include Life Plan, Communications, and Women Champions of Buffalo River.